Hey everyone, Tin Man here, back with some more Dota Underlords. We're going to be casting the ESL Mobile Open here. We are in the closed qualifiers, so this is the top half of players who were from the open qualifiers have moved on to the closed qualifier section. And at the end of this week, they will make another cut again to the top into Phase 3 qualifiers. So we've got a 7-player lobby just because uneven number of cuts here, so pretty standard in some of these tournaments. We're going to be following Pouty Panda here for most of this game. Pouty Panda won the previous game, and actually we've played 3 games already today. This is the 4th game, and Pouty Panda won the 1st game and the 3rd game. So definitely a strong player that we can watch and learn from. And I think casting tournaments, it probably helps to follow just like 1, maybe 2 players a little bit more in depth rather than trying to cover everybody's perspective, and I think that might be a better way to approach the tournament. So we're going to try that for this game and see how it goes. So Pouty Panda here has opted to play just 2 units on the first turn rather than a full 3, and the idea behind that is that there's not really a good combination here. If you look at all the units that they had options to, the only alliance they could have really completed, I guess, was maybe Bloodbound with Bloodseeker and Warlock, maybe Warlocks with Venomancer and Warlock, but admittedly, those are kind of weak individual units. They're not scrappy units. They're not demons. They're not like big brawnies that deal AoE damage or brutes. So they kind of lack a little bit of power in this early game. And so the idea with just playing 2 units right off the bat is you have a weak board, just play 2 units. You're almost certainly going to lose against anybody playing 3 units. And take a losing streak. It's not full open fort, but you just probably take a loss here. We do see Pouty Panda actually getting a 2-star Timber Saw there with a free reroll. By taking a loss, you get a free reroll. Very valuable, of course. And we do see them going to get this Timber Saw to 2-star. Very lucky there we didn't watch their full shop. But very powerful at this point, but still kind of sticking to this, hey, I lost the first round. And you have a sense of direction to go maybe towards this like scrappy build with the 2-star Timber Saw, but I still want some more rerolls because early rerolls are pretty powerful if you can find these 2-star units. So opting to just play a single Timber Saw is probably a reasonable bet. If you did happen to win the first round, maybe if they looked around and saw, oh, somebody's playing actual open fort with 0 units on board, maybe you actually play 0 yourself. Or sorry, you play more units and try to win the rounds. But here, I think Pouty Panda is thinking, I lost the first round, I want to lose the next round, and maybe even lose another round after this. Just keep a losing streak, at least initially. But this is kind of playing a little greedy and saying, well, I'm going to play some units. Right? I'm going to play some units to maybe get a kill or 2. It can definitely backfire if you end up accidentally winning the round. And then, things go really sideways and you actually win the round, don't get your losing streak. But in this case, up against HDPG, has a very strong start with a 2-star Treant already from via the Druid Alliance and the 2-star Bloodseeker. So that was a beating and a half here. So Pouty Panda does has got the losing streak that I think they wanted initially, but also has some good units. Has the 2-star Timber Saw, has the Scrappy Alliance, and also has some Hunters, which is a common pairing with these Scrappy builds. Scrappy being arguably the most powerful build right now in the meta, certainly the most popular. Just it's very commonly played with Hunters just because Sniper is so strong, and also you've got Medusa and you've got Weaver as great units to throw into a Scrappy build. So picking up somebody like Lycan is a great addition as well, to just give you that 3 Hunter bonus, especially after recent nerfs to Dragon Knight, means that the Dragon path with Dragon Knight and Snapfire is just a lot less appealing because Dragon Knight has gotten nerfed a few times here. So after a couple of early losses and using some rerolls, Pouty Panda does opt to play the full 3 units that they are allowed to play, that they've been allowed to play for quite a while now, and doesn't manage to take a win here with the 2-star Timber Saw pulling a lot of damage in that fight up against Blue, who's running some Assassins. So, not running the full kind of like dedicated losing streak strategy, and I think that is a good choice, especially because we do have a bot in the game, which I understand that they want to have, you know, an even 8-person lobby here, and so they use the hardest difficulty bots in these tournaments to fill up the empty spots. But it does lead to some weird gameplay situations where, you know, a strategy like a losing streak strategy is a little bit devalued because you know that there's a bot who's probably weaker than you, even if you are trying to lose in it. So, you know, that's just something that players have to recognize and adapt and be able to overcome in this particular game here. So this is a close one up against some warriors here. Earth Spirit being fairly recently moved down to tier 2 survives at exactly 1 HP. Oh my goodness, that is crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a fight actually go to exactly 1 HP. And we just saw it there. I thought, honestly, the Scrappies were going to get away with it. No, they do not. The 1 HP Earth Spirit manages to take the win here. And so that is, you know, it's still early, so it's not disastrous by any means, but it does mean that Pouty Panda was trying to go on a win streak, and they kind of thought, oh, maybe I will get a win streak. Just because, you know, very powerful 2-star Timbersaw, very powerful Bounty Hunter 2-star. They didn't actually have that for the previous round because they were, they found it, they ran out of time right before the prep phase ended. So that was like kind of bad to not get that win streak going and get that a little bit disrupted early game. That might impact their economy a little bit in terms of the amount of gold they'll have available going into the mid game here. Going back up against Blue, who is looking to go towards an Assassin build. Assassins are kind of weak right now, still having a lot of 1-star Assassins. You know, no 2-star Bounty from Blue, no 2-star Queen of Pain or anything like that. So Assassins are going to take a little bit of a loss here as Pouty Panda tries to get back on that winning ways here. I think this build is quite strong. It just lost that 1 HP to those warriors. So let's take their position here and let's take a look at what the rest of the lobby looks like and see what they should be thinking. So obviously they're a little bit lower on life total than everyone else just because they intentionally went on the early round losing streak, went 2 wins in a row before losing again, or just win, loss, win. So of course we'd prefer those 2 wins to be in a row now. Does see what looks like 2 Assassin players between Blue and Nexus, and Assassins definitely have a time in the game where they are much stronger than Scrappy players. So you have to be a little bit worried if the Scrappy build doesn't really come together and the Assassins start kind of popping off around that around 15 to 20 range, where the Assassins can get all 2-star Assassins plus complete 6 Assassins. They can kind of beat up on Scrappies until Scrappies start finding their Gyrocopters and other ace units. But that's a little ways away, and we don't have to worry about that right now. Pouty Panda does take a win over Lord Gort there, and does manage to get 4 Scrappies here now with the Tinker getting involved. And that is a huge power spike, getting the 4 Scrappies. Make sure that this bonus applies to every Scrappy unit. And that just makes everybody super resilient and is obviously quite strong. So I didn't really talk too much about their item choices so far since they picked Voidstone on turn 1. That's a little hard to tell exactly where you're going on turn 1. But Voidstone is an item that I think a lot of newer players don't fully appreciate exactly how strong this is and exactly when it's good, because it's not as easy to parse as, oh, armor, that's great on tanky units, or attack damage or attack speed is just great on any unit that attacks. Voidstone is really good on any units who have really short cooldowns. So Timbersaw who held it for most of this game, has a short cooldown, just 5 seconds. So oftentimes Timbersaw needs that mana to cast every 5 seconds. Same idea with Tinker, who casts every 8 seconds, which is a little bit longer, but Tinker also generates mana so much slower than Timbersaw. Timbersaw is going to be right up in the front, taking attacks, gaining damage from being attacked, which hopefully Tinker won't be. And so he really needs that mana item, especially if you get him up to 3-star, when his cooldown goes down to essentially 0 seconds. He basically has no cooldown, and he just is going to cast as soon as he gets mana up. So picking up a Voidstone early on is very flexible and can go towards a lot of different builds. Tinker, probably one of the best carriers of it. And honestly, I think Bounty Hunter is a really good carrier of it as well, because he has a 5-second cooldown and a pretty powerful 500 damage Shuriken toss. That sometimes he struggles to get his mana up quickly enough. You see that he's a little bit slow. But same idea with Tinker, who also deals lots of damage, and things are looking pretty good for for Patty Panda here, the only player still on a win streak, which would have been a larger win streak if it wasn't for that 1 HP Earth Spirit earlier on. Hand of Midas, the other item they picked up was just a solid item. You know, you're very rarely going to be upset with the Hand of Midas, and especially on somebody like Timberside who's going to get a lot of kills early on. Maybe you can grab a couple extra gold and get ahead that way. So, Underlords. I mean, obviously we're playing Dota Underlords, so Underlords are a big part of the game, and this is a very NO style game here. We see actually every single player's picked up NO. To be fair, including the bot, which is, you know, of course, random. This is, I feel like, a natural progression to where the games have been so far with this lobby. Like I said, we've already played 3 games with these same group of players, and NO has definitely been the dominant Underlord so far in this game, and in the meta right now. It does seem like NO in both versions, All Out Attack NO and Yoink NO, or I guess as they're technically called, Rabid Furball and Healin' and Stealin' NO, but I refer to them by their alt names. Both of them just seem to be a touch above the other Underlords. I don't think he's like completely busted, like beyond overpowered, but I do think he is a touch above to the point where you should probably pick NO in whatever build you're playing. And that's a little unfortunate because I do think that stifles creativity, but as we do know, in about 10 days we're going to be getting a new rotation of heroes and presumably some balance changes. So until then, just pick NO. He's really strong. I do think he kind of makes the game a little bit, well, fights like this a little bit boring when just NOs are just bouncing back and forth. It's a little comical, but it also gets a little boring when you're just sitting here twiddling your thumbs when waiting. When is this fight going to end? It gives you plenty of times to use your emotes, though. Or they're just going to draw. Which I suppose in this case, between Patty Panda and Sleep, is probably the best case scenario for both of them, because they're both on a win streak. And the way this works is, if you are on a win streak, a draw does not stop your win streak, which is kind of weird, because you didn't win. You had a draw. But I digress. So no one has lost their streak. They're still both on a win streak. It just didn't progress it any further. So because they had a draw, they're both going to, you know, continue their win streak and hopefully play against other people and keep on winning. But that just goes to show the power of NO to never, ever, ever die. It also pairs very well with Scrappies, which we know Patty Panda is definitely looking towards a Scrappy build. To be the fact that once you get up to 6 Scrappies, NO himself can hold the Scrappy buff when it says all allies get the bonus. So that makes him even harder to deal with, which he already is very hard to deal with. And also, most Scrappy builds typically will have insects in it, just because you're playing Weaver, who's a Scrappy. And when NO is constantly jumping around, kind of extending the fight and making the fight go on for a few extra seconds, the insects are still nibbling away at the opponent. So insects are a very popular pairing with NO for that reason, that while he's doing his jump arounds, it's going to be very hard to deal with him. In terms of the exact version of NO here, we do see Patty Panda has the Yoink NO, which I would say is probably the weaker of the two. I think all-out attack is just a little bit more impactful, as we kind of have seen. Other versions, actually I didn't quite see if they lost against. Was it an all-out attack NO? No, it was not. But even so, I do feel like the all-out attack NO, the AoE stun and the big poison application is quite strong, and I think that's a touch better than the Yoink version, especially especially early on when you're not yoinking super great items. You're yoinking like Chainmail or Claymore, I think, in that last fight. Certainly nothing compared to like the Vladimir's Offering that you might be yanking later on, or a Moon Shard or something like that. So I do think the all-out attack is a touch better in the early game here. That being said, we do see Patty Panda going on a bit of a losing streak here. Well, it was a draw and then loss. I guess at this point, Patty Panda would probably thinking, I kind of wish I had lost that round that we had a draw in. In any case, not to be deterred, not going to suddenly swap out into a totally different strategy. It's still going to go for this kind of Scrappy Inventor style build is decided to do this very common strategy here where they're going to like 24 of 25 as they're waiting for the next round to start up. That way whenever the round starts up, they're at level 7, and so they get the odds in the shop as if they were level 7. So they get the 15% odds on the tier 4 units, for instance. So higher chance of finding things like Alchemist, a very powerful tier 4 Scrappy unit. And also waiting to buy this extra Timber Saw and waiting to use the reroll until the round starts so they can lock in the interest above 30. And then right as it starts, they do the reroll and see what's going on. They can pick up Bloodseeker, although I doubt this will be a pickup. It's just there for the... or I doubt it'll be played. They're going to pick it up just in case, but I doubt it'll ever actually come in. The Deadeye bonus is very valuable in the later game stages to really empower the Sniper. But of course, you still have the 1-star Sniper, who's not the most impactful at 1-star. But once he gets up to 2-star, he can really start to carry some fights with the Deadeye bonus to focus fire down those low health targets. But a 1-star Sniper is not the most useful. And besides, by the time you get to the late game stage, hopefully you found the Gyrocopter, a very powerful late game ace of Deadeyes. That being said, this build is still quite powerful here. The Insect's doing a lot of work as Enno is constantly bouncing around. The Timber Saw itself, of course, is still very tanky. Even without a defensive item, Pouty Panda has not opted to go for any sort of defensive item at the moment. Is still opting to go for the offensive items in these pickups. Has picked up the Crystallis for the Bounty Hunter, which Bounty Hunter is often the Scrappy that you end up cutting when you find that Alchemist in the later stages of the game. But until then, it's a pretty good item on him because he attacks pretty fast, so he uses the bonus damage and crit chance pretty well. Also realize that I probably want to be focusing a little bit more on keeping their shop open during the prep phase, so we can look at what they're buying and what they're choosing not to buy specifically. In addition to talking about just the general meta trends and what they're generally going for here. Pouty Panda does take a loss here against Nexus, who has a pretty powerful build on a very good win streak with that Assassin and Scrappy build. They have a 2-star Viper and 2-star Queen of Pain, which are doing a lot of damage output. At this point, yeah, both of them at the top of the damage charts here. Any 2-star of a 3-cost unit is so powerful at this point in the game. Viper, Sniper, any of those, or Lycan, Treant, anything you get a 3-cost unit to 2-star this early on, it's going to be pretty powerful. So we do see them pick up the pairs of the units, the pair of Tinkers, pair of Broodmothers, and use the free reroll, and just really looking to level up to 8 as soon as possible. Leveling up to 8 unlocks the possibility of getting ace units. So that's where you want to get Medusa to round out the Hunter comp, rather, between the Weaver and the Sniper. And it also unlocks Gyrocopter to be available for your Deadeyes. So definitely appealing for these builds to get up to level 8 sooner rather than later. And so that's why we see just no rerolls, just spending all of your excess gold above 30 going to level ups. That does mean that Pouty Panda is a little bit weak right now, has not been rerolling at all. Has been on a bit of a losing streak, doesn't have too many upgrades, has a lot of pairs, for instance, but not a lot of those upgrades that are really going to put them in a winning position here. Does take a very narrow win against HTPG here. Honestly, I thought that could have been another draw, but does manage to pull it out there in the end. So the item pickup here, there's nothing super appealing. Either Skullbash or Stonehole Pike I think would be a pick. Battle Fury is a pretty good item on some melee units, but unfortunately the melee units in this build aren't the big carries. Timber Saw doesn't have very high attack damage and is mainly about his Whirling Death. Broodmother is kind of squishy at 1-star. Alchemist is a good person to hold some of these attack damage items, but he doesn't come on until later in the game. So instead they're opting for Stonehole Pike, which already has a lot of kills on Bounty Hunter. Oftentimes, if you have an early 2-star Weaver or a Deadeye Sniper early on, they'll also rack up lots of kills. So Stonehole Pike is often quite good in these kind of compositions. It does go on the Bounty Hunter, though, who I did say I suspect they're going to replace at some point. But at this point, it may just be that like Clockwork doesn't come in if they don't find a 2-star Clockwork. Because there's 7 Scrappies in the game and you only need 6, one of them is going to be the odd man out. And oftentimes it's Bounty Hunter, but if you get a lot of kill on Bounty Hunter, and then you find a Stonewall Pike, you know, you can make an exception and keep him in. And instead cut one of the other units that, you know, you don't have an amazingly powerful item on. So here we see the value of Eno and the insects, with all these insects just really, like Eno was in a 1v2, or Pouty Panda was in a 1v2, and the insects just kept on ticking as Eno was doing the jump around and escape artisting all over the place. Those insects were pulling some late game damage, or late round damage rather. Still going up against the bot, Agnieszka bot, who is also running Scrappies of their own. You know, each of these bots is programmed to go for a certain style of build, and since it's kind of random, they just happen to be going for a pretty good build, and that's another little factor that these players do have to adapt to, is whatever bot is in the game, if there is a bot, knowing that that bot will be picking up some of the units that they may want, and being able to adapt to that and perhaps adjust their strategy to compensate for that, knowing that the bot's probably going to be eliminated around round 20-ish. That's just a pretty common situation. So being able to adapt to that is important, to know that, you know, before then your units might be a bit rare, and after that they might be more common. So trying to balance what type of strategies you go after because of that is pretty important. Does look like Pouty Panda gets another win here. I realize we have not been looking too much at their shop. We do see that they've leveled up to 8 now. A little bit before most other players. Most other actual players are still level 7. Only Lord Gort has leveled up to 8 at the moment. And this was kind of preemptive. We could tell that by the fact that, you know, because no one else is leveled, It's Martini still 6 actually. Very, very fast level up from Pouty Panda here. And that's because we know that the Scrappy builds really wants to get levels under their belt. They don't need to reroll too terribly much. It's nice if they get some upgrades, like they do have the pair of 2-star Timber Saws, which have been doing some pretty good work. But the late game is all about that Gyrocopter and the Medusa. So here we do see Martini's build, who's still level 6, but Martini's been taking kind of the opposite approach, staying at a lower level and rerolling a lot. Does find the 3-star Shadow Demon, and I'm sure Martini is also pretty close to like 3-star of some of the other units in their build, since they've been rerolling so much here. We'll take a look here after Pouty Panda. It does take a win over them, but it's not a huge win. Just rather a narrow win, actually, since the Eno is so good at buying time. It's Martini, yeah, has a 3-star Shadow Demon, and also is 1 away from 3-star Beastmaster. Has 8 of those 9, and Beastmaster is a huge upgrade for that comp. And because Martini is still, you know, gets a free reroll from the losing streak, is still at a lower level, and still has some rerolls left, definitely they're going to find that Beastmaster soon, and I think that'll be a big turnaround for that build. But until then, it's definitely looking like Pouty Panda is in a good shape here. Yep, there's Martini with the 3-star Beastmaster, as we kind of expected at some point here. And Pouty Panda is probably like, whew, dodged a bullet there. Just got out of it a turn before that came online. So, of course, you can't play the same person back-to-back unless you're in a 1v1. Or down to the final 3 even. So it tries to like switch your opponents up so they know they're not going to play that opponent just yet. Pouty Panda is up against Lord Gort here, who does have a Legion Commander with not that many duel wins. She's only won 1 duel, effectively, 8 bonus damage. And, you know, I am the biggest Legion Commander fan that you'll find here, but a 1 duel win Legion Commander in round 19, I'm a little skeptical. I'm just gonna say I don't think it's the carry that you want it to be if you've fallen behind this early. And so Pouty Panda takes advantage of that, and Lord Gort takes a chunk of 11 damage. Somehow, Agnieszka bot is still sticking around here at 13 life, so bot is going to survive for another turn or two, as Pouty Panda and Nexus kind of start to pull a bit away from the pack. Martini, after finding those 3-star units, does opt to level up to 7. A little bit late to the party, as Pouty Panda gets very aggressive here and levels up to 9. But I guess it makes sense because despite what I call aggressive leveling up, like fast leveling before everybody else, they haven't lost any interest. They still were at 30 gold of interest at the start of the round, just buying the Sand King after the round locks in. An interest locks in at the start. Just like, I don't think Pouty Panda has done a single reroll at any point in this game that wasn't a free reroll. And that's what you have to do in this kind of build, is just get your upgrades naturally. I know that's a little bit luck-based, right? And then just get the level ups and start rerolling at level 9. Right? At level 8 or 9, depending on when you really... Depends on how much your life total is. And since Pouty Panda is pretty healthy, makes sense to try to level up at 9. Does get paired up against Martini again, who we were just talking about. Dodged right after they got that 3-star Beastmaster, but of course that was a huge upgrade. And Beastmaster does a lot of damage. 10,000 damage in that fight. Beastmaster looking pretty good there. So Pouty Panda takes a bit of a hit, but honestly, that's okay. I'm sure they're thinking that, I just spent all my gold to level up to 9. I know I haven't been rerolling. I'm not that strong. I don't have the upgrades. But now that I'm level 9, now I can start to reroll. Now I can start to reroll and not worry about things. They find the Gyrocopter. That is huge. That is a huge change right here. That gives them not only 4 inventors, but also 2 Deadeye and Ace of Deadeye. Now, of course, their Deadeyes are still 1-star units, so, you gotta temper your expectations here just a touch. But yeah, the Gyrocopter alone deals a lot of damage. Hits very hard, and his auto attack hits hard. 100 plus DPS. Plus also is call down AOE. It's very hard. And it's always going to go on the most useful target. It's going to go on the lowest HP target because the Deadeye plus the Pierce effect. Yeah. A 1-star Gyrocopter is still the top damage dealer in this build. And that just shows you why this late game Scrappy build is just dependent on getting Gyrocopter. And that's why you gotta level up so quickly. You just have to do that to maximize your odds of finding the Gyro and Medusa to some extent, because obviously you want to replace this Drow Ranger with a Medusa, the Ace of Hunters, in the very later stages of the game. So we do see our first bot being eliminated, so no player's been eliminated yet, but Lord Gord is a little bit worse for wear. So is Blue, also down at 30 life. In the meantime, now that I'm assuming Pouty Panda probably wants to do some rerolls here, probably just going to be rerolling down to around 30 gold every turn. Probably, I would imagine they're healthy enough and they think they're strong enough to exercise a little bit of restraint and not feel any need to reroll lower. As soon as you start saying, oh, I need to reroll lower than 30, lower than max interest, that's when you get yourself into trouble and you say, I'm probably just never going to level up again. And here, because Pouty Panda is still at 55 life, still pretty healthy, you got to think, this is fine. I can take it safe. I can just reroll once or twice per turn. I don't need to go all in, and you can find what upgrades come to you, and then whenever the time is right, if you find enough upgrades and you think you're strong enough, and maybe 4 or 5 turns down the line, you can say, all right, yeah, now it's time to level up to 10, and throw in 1 more unit. So that's where I think their mindset is right here. Of course, they buy the Alchemist after interest locks in at the start of the round to go up to 29 gold, or to go down to 29 gold. So Pouty Panda does take a very narrow win here. Once again, the NO duel off, and of course, Gyrocopter top DPS. Man, 1-star Gyrocopter is just that good. So they do have the Savage bonus between the Lycan, or they did have Lycan until when did they get a Medusa? They just get a Medusa. Oh, just now. Okay, I missed it. They just got a Medusa. So that's pretty insane. Alright, so this build has really come together, and I think Pouty Panda is in a great shape to probably continue this win streak. And once again, exercising that restraint, just going down to exactly 30 every round, and just taking what comes and not force re-rolling, because they are pretty healthy. It's going to be a big test, though, going up against the Nexus, the only player with more HP with his assassin builds. The assassin build is still a little bit weak. They doesn't have the they just have the 1-star Slark. They've got some other 1-star assassins like the 1-star Faceless Void and Medusa. So it's not the cleanest fight on either side here. I do think the assassins are getting the better end of it here, just barely though. But the insects and Eno have a knack for extending these fights, and it does look like the assassins are going to get it in the end here, but it's pretty darn close. Does look like Pouty Panda takes a slight loss, just losing what, 5 or 6 life here, just 5. Honestly, that's not the end of the world. I'm sure Pouty Panda is still sitting pretty happy here, despite not rerolling down to anything lower. Does have the pair of Medusas, does have the pair of snipers, pair of weavers, has pairs of everything that they need, and also still been maintaining max interest. Does now finally drop a little bit lower on the gold total, dropping to below 30. I wanted to get that 2-star Alchemist on the table, so that is going to be another big upgrade. But honestly, they're doing pretty well even without some of these 2-stars, so I think this is a strong build. But here's another one with It's Martini with the 3-star Beastmaster. The last time they faced, Martini definitely got the better end of this. Beastmaster's 43 kills himself, let alone I think they've got... is it just 44 total? Is that it? Is that all any of the brownies have? Nah, that can't be right. I'll have to double check here after the round, but it does look like this big Beastmaster is definitely a struggle for this Scrappy build to deal with. They just do not have the single target focus to be able to bring down a really, really tanky Beastmaster here. So I'll put It's Martini's board and see how many brownie kills they have. It is 49. Okay, so yeah, almost every single one of their kills is on this Beastmaster, 1 on the axe. I guess that's the only 2 brownies. They have a Bristleback on the bench, but that's not really doing much here. So despite that, if you are in Pouty Panda spot, you're thinking, well, I think this is a really strong build. I think 6 Scrappies is especially strong, and they got a 2-star Medusa. Oh my goodness. Now this is how you be a good player. You just get to level 9, just fast level to 9, and then just get your 2-star Medusa and your Gyrocopter. That's just what you gotta do. Just get them like it's nothing. This is a really early 2-star Medusa, and it's particularly effective against assassins because they all jump in on her, and almost all of them are going to be in range of her stun. She does get her full stun off and takes out most of the assassins in the backline. Gyrocopter is still alive, so I think this is going to be a nice solid win here for Pouty Panda. Probably going to eliminate blue here. Yeah, 2-star Medusa. Really, really good upgrade, especially at this point in the game. I mean, any point in the game, it's really strong. On round 25, that is pretty early for a 2-star ace unit to come in and just mop things up, especially without the most heavy of rerolls. Just got up to level 9 and has just been rerolling down to 30 and then down to 20 the past 2 rounds. And it has a pair of Void Spirits, which I don't think they're going to pick up, but the possibility of another 2-star ace unit is maybe slightly appealing. I think they're still probably just looking at throwing in another Timber Saw or another Sniper, another Gyrocopter if they get up to level 10, rather than trying to go into Void Spear or something. In terms of items, Scythe Device is a mana item, so if they didn't have the Void Stone, they may think about that if they wanted a mana item on Tinker. But instead they opt for... God, I missed it. What did they pick? Did they pick Eye of Scotty there? Was that it? That must have been it. I literally blanked. I guess that's the only item they must have picked. Yeah, Eye of Scotty, great item on Medusa, but they're instead opting to go for a little bit more damage output on Medusa with the Hand of Midas rather than the CC, the AoE slow from Eye of Scotty, because this will slow everybody that she split shots to. Instead opting to give Weaver a bit more survivability, because he is still a 1-star and is a little bit vulnerable, so they just want to give that Eye of Scotty over to Weaver because he needs that little bit extra of HP to stay alive in these fights. That being said, this is a really good situation for Pouty Panda, who is making short work of pretty much everyone they're coming up against here. Lord Word is probably going to get eliminated here on this round, who is running a Knight's build, was just not able to deal with this 2-star Medusa, who just was dealing top DPS. so incredibly strong. There's even another Medusa in the shop they just opted not to pick up because it would cost them interest, of course. And I think 3-star Medusa is probably not what they're expecting to play. They're probably not going to do any buying here since they're just above 30, but we want to take a quick scout around here and see this lobby actually has quite a bit more diversity than I think we've seen in previous games in the lobby today. We've seen a lot of Scrappies. Now there's 2 Scrappy players remaining, but there's also a Heartless, a Warrior, and an Assassin player, all doing pretty well. So we'll see how this relatively less contested Scrappies than we've seen before. We know they're very strong even when contested, and of course finding the 2-star Medusa is quite good. But there are some other strong builds out there as well, so we'll have to see if this build is able to take them down. So far, it's making pretty short work of Sleep here, and it looks like Sleep is going to get knocked out. This 2-star Medusa just pulling so much damage, and the Warrior build, unfortunately, just not able to compete. A 1-star Troll Warlord is not going to pull nearly as much damage as a 2-star Medusa. It really does scale very strongly in favor of whoever gets up to 2-star quickly. 2-star Troll Warlord maybe could have competed, but the 2-star Medusa was just way too much to handle. In the meantime, we do see a 2-star Faceless Void over on Nexus, so we'll have to see if some of these ace units, now that a lot of players are starting to get access to them, if that starts to come into play. We do see Pouty Panda taking a couple of rerolls here, trying to find that 2-star Sniper. The other option could have been to spend, they had above 35, I think they had 36 gold at the start of the turn. It could have been to spend 35 to level up and just throw in another 2-star Timbersaw. But deciding that, we've got 40 life, we're not really at risk of dying anytime soon. Let's take a couple rerolls, see if I can find some upgrades, and then slowly level to 10. It's going to level to 10 eventually, but that can wait a few turns. There's no reason to compromise your interest and go down to 0 right away when you're not really at risk of being eliminated. So I can understand where they're coming from here. Although the competition is going to get significantly harder here, as they do take a loss to It's Martini, takes 7, and HTPG does get eliminated, the other Scrappy player. So a couple more Scrappies back in the pool, but now you know that there's only 3 players left, 2 opponents, and one of them just beat you, It's Martini, and the other one has a 3-star Viper, who has a similar problem for this build that a 3-star Beastmaster does, in that how do you deal with such a single high health unit? This Viper is 4,500 health, but also is super immune to magic damage because of the corrosive skin. I'm just not sure, actually. If we hop over to their perspective, they're facing the Ghost of Nexus. So I just feel like this Viper is just never going to die in this build. I know they got a 3-star Timbersaw just now with some of these rerolls. Actually, instead of opting to level up to 10, deciding that maybe they were feeling the pressure and thinking, okay, I don't have a great unit to put in, and my only hope is to actually just level up. Or sorry, the other way, that I don't have a great 10th unit to put in, and instead I'm just going to reroll here because we want to find the 2-star or 3-star Timbersaw, the 2-star Sniper, the 2-star Gyrocopter. And they do manage to find the Timbersaw and the Sniper, and are actually able to deal with that Viper. I think the Viper was still pretty strong, but the rest of the Assassins just struggled to take down the rest of this board. It was very tanky. Medusa is still a great counter to a lot of these Assassins, and if you get 3 or 4 people focus firing on just the Viper and he's the only one left, yeah, I guess you can take him down. He has a lot of magic resistance, not a lot of physical armor. So once they're mostly gone, they can focus fire down. This Viper did not jump because this Clockwork moved up first and kind of got in range. So this Viper is not really going to be taking too much damage initially. It's going to get some time to cast a couple times. This fight may go exactly the opposite way here. If this Viper survives long enough, he is still untouched, and yeah, you can definitely see the difference in this fight. Whenever the Viper does not jump, he actually becomes top DPS, and the Scrappies struggle to deal enough damage because the Viper didn't jump in, didn't get stunned by the Medusa. This is a weird situation where you actually want the Assassins to jump in on you just because Medusa's Stone Gaze doesn't reach into that backline. How to pan ops for Vladimir's offering here, probably the next best choice was the Mechanism. Vladimir's offering just provides a lot of survivability, +5 armor to your entire, well, not your entire team, but 2 cells around your units. I think they're going to put that on the Timbersaw, the tankiest unit. I'd probably like to see this Timbersaw moved one more square closer to the middle, just to make sure, because right now this Timbersaw, if you count 2 cells away, you're missing some squares that are off the board. So if you move closer to the middle, it still affects everyone on the right side, but also affects a little bit more to the left if people move that way. But, you know, just keeping the same positioning, I guess, assuming that people are going to flow into them or the Timbersaw is going to move forward, so it doesn't matter that much anyway. Yeah, this Timbersaw kind of took an awkward path here and is kind of at range and doesn't have too many people in range of its ability. Like, the backline is really unprotected, same with the Medusa, whereas if Timbersaw was a little bit closer, maybe this Medusa would be protected. Unfortunately, this is going to be a problem. Medusa is just getting like shredded by this Beastmaster in the backline, and yeah, this Beastmaster is not going down, but he probably will. I don't think he can actually kill this this big Timbersaw. He hits hard, but not that hard. Yeah, whenever Timbersaw dies, the Inventor Explosion actually kills him off here. We get another very close one. It comes down to the NO battle. I think the NO with Scrappy bonus does win. I was pretty close. It was looking bad initially, but Beastmaster with 23k damage. The problem is the rest of the build doesn't do all that much. 6 Heartless just feels like it doesn't do anything other than enable the Beastmaster. I mean, it's quite strong at that, but outside of that Beastmaster, it feels like the rest of the Martini's build doesn't do a whole lot. Still, I'm a little concerned about this build against the Assassins. I think they might do well to actually like set the entire board back a step even further and make sure the Assassins jump in on you. They've made some slight positioning adjustments, but I think the bigger part here is finding the 2-star Gyrocopter on this turn. We haven't been watching the shop too much recently because I think it's more down to positioning and how the fights are playing out at this point in the game. Right now, they're just rerolling for the Gyrocopter, and they did manage to find it, and that is a really huge change. Previously, Medusa was the big carry, dealing almost all the damage, and same with Timbersaw to an extent. And now the Gyrocopter's coming online here. We do see Martini, the Brawnies, getting eliminated in 3rd place. I really like that build. I think it was strong. You know, they got the 3-star Beastmaster early, got a lot of Brawny kills, but unfortunately, it kind of like all their eggs in one basket, and if that basket gets hit by, you know, a Viper's Nether Toxin or Slark Disarm and just burns them down really quick, then that build can fall apart really quickly because the rest of their build doesn't do a whole terrible lot. So now they do actually set their build back just a little bit here now that they know they're going up against some Assassins, but Timbersaw in the back line to pick up these Assassins who jump in. Medusa has not cast her Stone Gaze just yet. Now she does. I think it's still in plenty of time here. Does hit most units. The Viper does jump away. So Viper's still alive, and he's going to be pumping out some good damage, and that may actually be enough. Still a 2-star Gyrocopter, so I wouldn't count him out. Nah, this Viper's not going to go down. This Viper's still at full HP. I think he can 1v3 here. I definitely do. Viper is just so tanky. He's got a BKB for some bonus attack damage. He's going to cast his Nether Toxin, which deals, you know, that's a 5-second root. It doesn't say it in the tooltip, but it's 5 seconds, so it's over 1,000 damage of magic damage. Roots the target, breaks them, and that's almost 100% uptime. So I think these fights are going to revolve around that Viper, and being able to catch him in, like, Medusa Stone Gaze is going to be really important. Or getting it hit randomly with a Doom is also going to be important to these fights. That being said, Nexus does find the 3-star Queen of Pain. I was going to say they still have room for upgrades. I know they were 1 away from Queen of Pain, and they still are at level 9 as opposed to level 10. So this could go either way, really. It was a pretty close fight, and I think the Assassins are a little bit favored right now. The Medusa actually gets burst down before she gets her ult off, or she got it off, but it didn't stun anybody. The Timbersaw only gets one spin off, and it looks like it's going to die just now. The Viper, still at full HP. Queen of Pain, still at mostly full HP. Yeah, these fights are going to go the way that Viper and Queen of Pain go. If Viper's essentially untouched, then things are looking really good. Otherwise, it can be a bit of a problem here. You may even consider, seeing the Medusa got burst down so quickly there, you may even consider moving this Aeon Disc back to the Medusa. We actually see them selling off these Dooms. I wasn't watching the shop because I don't know exactly what they're rerolling for. But my thought is that they're probably rerolling for a second Medusa, right? The idea is that if you can find a second Medusa, you get a second chance at that Stone Gaze. And if the Stone Gaze completes against these Assassins, it is so powerful. So a lot of this fight comes down to, like, how does Medusa work? Medusa does catch the Viper this time. Oh no, he's BKB'd it. It doesn't pierce BKB. So this Viper is actually just, like, pretty hard to take down. He is right in the middle, so he is getting hit a little bit, but not nearly enough, and it looks like the Assassins are going to dethrone the Scrappies as the winning build this game. So many of our games so far today in this tournament have been won by Scrappies. They are one of the most powerful meta compositions, but a well-crafted Assassin build can definitely take them down. Viper 3-star, Queen of Pain 3-star are absolutely terrifying, especially when you're trying to rely on these BKBs that, we're trying to rely on other CCs that they can just completely ignore thanks to Black King Bar, letting them become magic immune right at the start of the fight. That's not to mention the 2-star Faceless Void and 2-star Slark also doing a lot of carrying. So congrats to Nexus for winning this game in the ESL Mobile Open closed qualifiers. Oh, Mobile Open / closed qualifiers. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.